Welcome to the next Brahmastra revision of Standards on Assurance Engagement CA Final Audit. Yes, तो जो आपका chapter number 11, the chapter number 11 that you have, alright, which talks about all SAE standards, I'm going to cover it. And as you know, this is going to be a very crisp exam-oriented video. These handwritten notes you will find on my Telegram channel, and how to go to my Telegram channel, the link is given in the description of this YouTube video. Alright, first of all, when it comes to Standards on Assurance Engagement, first things first. Standards on auditing, it deals with audit of historical financial information. Standards on review engagement, it deals with review of historical financial information. So SA and SRE, both of them deal with examination of financial statements, historical financial statements, all right, the final accounts that you prepare. But in SAE series, it is very clear that there are three standards, and all three of them do not deal with examination of historical financial statements. तीन standards है, there are three standards, and तीनों के तीनों, all three of them are dealing with something different. यानी तीनों standards के अंदर, in all the three standards, something is getting examined, all right, but it is not historical financial statements. So what is getting examined? Standard by standard I will teach you. All right, first is SAE 3400. SAE 3400 talks about examination of prospective financial information. Now, what is a prospective financial information? Future cash flows, estimated cash flows, projected, forecast, all right, that is called as prospective financial information. So technically in English, it is nothing but an estimate of earnings. All right, kuch earnings ka estimate. Okay, there is some assumption that there are some events, kuch dharana hai, there are some assumptions that there are some events that may occur in future, and for that I am showing you my estimate of earnings. There are some actions that management may take in future, and for that management is showing you an estimate of earnings. So an estimate of earnings depicting assumptions about events that may occur in future and possible actions by the entity in future. However, one MCQ oriented question, everyone over here, there are three types of prospective financial information. See, whenever you have heard from weather department, what है weather department forecast देता ना, उसको weather forecast क्यों बोलते हैं? And why not weather projection? It is called as forecast because they tell you in the next 3 days so and so things will happen, in the next 10 days so and so things will happen. So that is also estimate, but it is a very accurate estimate, I must say. Best estimate के हिसाब से estimate बनाया जाता है, and that is why it is called as forecast. So when management is preparing, the prospective financial information, and if they are showing you a very short term, near term, all right, near term estimate, which is based upon best estimate assumptions which they expect to take place, okay, and that is forecast. Okay, second word is projection. Normally in Shark Tank India and startup entities, what you see is projection. They tell you that in the next 5 years they are going to come up with so and so cash flows and stuff. So it is hypothetical assumptions. Hypothetical means theoretically it is there, it may happen or it may not happen. All right, assumptions and actions not necessarily expected to take place. So please understand the difference between forecast and projection. And forecast and projection को commonly क्या बुलाया जाता है? Prospective financial information. There is sometimes a combination of both. That means an entity will show you that in the next 5-6 months what may happen, all right, and then in the next 10 years what is going to happen. Okay, so 1 year forecast and 5 year projection, that is just called as a combination. So you just call it as prospective financial information. Which खाली अगर एग्जाम में दिया है prospective financial information, then you will not understand whether the question is of forecast or projection. But if the question clearly tells you that it is short term or it is based upon best estimate, then it is forecast. It is theoretical assumption, may or may not happen, then it is projection. And if it shows you something like this, then it is a combination. Please remember this for MCQ, and it will also help you in the answers. All right, so I have given module has given some examples. I have printed a snapshot over here, and it is better if you just read these examples once. All right, now this particular point will exactly tell you that किसको क्या काम करना है, what, whose responsibility, what they are going to do. Responsibility of the management का responsibility क्या होगा? What will be the responsibility of the management? All right, identification and disclosure of prospective financial information. See, they are only going to prepare PFI, na, prospective financial information. They are only going to disclose everything. They are going to ensure that it is not misleading. All right, explaining the basis, the assumptions. All right, so it is their job to do this. What is auditor's job? Although auditor बोला गया है, but don't consider it as auditor or stat auditor. They just use the word auditor over here. All right. So auditor examining prospective financial information, he has to obtain sufficient and appropriate evidence. Don't use the word sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Just say sufficient and appropriate evidence. For what? See, once you understand कि यहाँ पे main words क्या है, assumptions, period covered, presentation disclosure, should not be misleading, then you should be able to develop the answer. All right. Whether the assumptions are best estimate assumptions, then best estimate should not be unreasonable. If it is hypothetical assumption, all right, theoretical assumptions, then at least it should be consistent with what they are saying. All right, where as per the purpose and stuff. तो उसके लिए word याद रखो consistency. Okay, let me tell you that SAE 3400 gets attracted when there is a proper financial prospective information, prospective financial information. In next 10 years, I'm going to be the prime minister. Prime minister. ऐसा कोई goals पे SAE 3400 apply नहीं होता है. All right, so please be careful of that. It has to be a proper financial information. So if it is a best estimate assumptions, it should not be unreasonable. If it is hypothetical assumption, it should be consistent. And then proper presentation and adequate disclosure. As an auditor, what else we are going to do? All right, and it should be also consistent with historical financial statements. So this is good point. It should also if history is showing 10%, 6% growth, then all of a sudden they cannot expect 50% growth or something like that. All right, okay. So please ensure that at least you are remembering these three words. One is assumptions, second one is presentation, and third one is history. All right, so HPA. Okay, now what is the core content of SAE 3400? Core content gets divided into three parts. First is acceptance of the engagement, that as a practicing CA, will you accept this engagement? All right, after accepting the engagement, the examination procedures that you are going to perform, and the last one is the reporting requirements. So as a practicing CA, will you accept the engagement? All right, why not? But there are some precautions to be taken before accepting this engagement. So if someone tells me, Pragnesh, I'm going to prepare a forecast, yeah, I'm going to prepare a projection, prospective financial information, you please audit that. Wait, I need to see that what exactly are you going to prepare? Cash flow, balance sheet, P&L, what? Elements. Then what will be the period covered? Next 100 years. Then I will kick him, where. Then what are your assumptions? Whether they are best estimate assumptions, hypothetical assumptions. Then where you are going to distribute this? Are you just going to give to a banker, or you're going to distribute it in a prospectus? All right. And then who are the users of this prospective financial information? So e-Padu. Okay, sorry for this code word, but these are the points that need to be taken care of. If you think that the assumptions are completely unrealistic, then in that case you are not going to accept that particular engagement. Okay, examination procedures. Now what I have seen is that this point and this particular point, they have repeatedly asked in exams, even during May 19 attempt, also till May 19 these standards were there. Then from May 24 onwards, again they are applicable. So this particular point, matters to be considered in determining the nature, timing and extent of the procedures. Now as an auditor, you have accepted the engagement. Now you are going to decide that you want to verify. Then what are the matters to be considered? So there are lots of matters that they have given, but I need a 4 or 5 point answer. X, judge of SC. All right. First of all, X, experience of my team, whether my own team, audit team will be able to do this. Second, my own past experience that can help me over here, whether I've done such assignments in the past. Then how much judgment will be involved in preparation of prospective financial information? Is it a forecast or is it a projection? All right. Then how stable is their business? Because if the business is not stable, then the outcome can be materially different. All right. Then source information kahan se le rahe log? All right, the source of information, you can write this as a separate point also. And whether management ka competence hai ki nahi hai? All right, whether management has the adequate competence and capabilities to prepare such kind of projections, forecast. Because if a startup founder is preparing it, then he may say that in the next 4 years he will be bigger than Google. All right, so it is better to also see the competence of the management. Okay, examination procedures. Verifying presentation and disclosure. Now imagine pura forecast and projection and everything is in front of you. All right, first of all, that should not be misleading, right? See, with my closed eyes I'm telling you with common sense. Then whatever the assumptions they have used in the presentation disclosure, it should be disclosed very clearly. All right, then what are the policies based upon which they have created this particular forecast, that needs to be disclosed. Achha, if there is a range, let us say 5 to 10, 10 to 15, then 5 to 10 EQ, 10 to 15 EQ, that also needs to be disclosed. So common sense, you can write some points. It should not be misleading. Then disclosure of accounting policies, disclosure of assumptions, how sensitive the assumptions are. The main thing is the date. Dates are very important in our life. All right, and basis of establishing the range. All right, so RMD cube. all right, for verifying the presentation and disclosure. So please be careful, do this properly. This over here is going to be the last line of the question, and you have to act accordingly. Okay. However, the most application based question that they can ask over here is from the reporting requirements. All right, now what is the format of reporting? See, as you have seen in this SRE SAE standards and stuff, you will see title, introduction, your opinion, and then management's responsibility, then auditors or practitioners responsibility. All of that is fine. All right, so I've given the format. What is going to be the format, the paragraphs, but the most important points are, listen to me very carefully. I hope that you are looking at this SAE series after SRE series. So itna मैं assume कर रहा हूँ that you know this word negative assurance. Still I will just repeat in one line. If I say Raju is a good boy, it is a positive assurance. वही चीज को मैं negative में कैसे बोलता हूँ? Raju is not a bad boy. All right, then it is a negative assurance. Correct. So when it comes to assumptions, see, in preparation of forecast, they are going to use assumptions. Remember this, for assumptions, you cannot give a positive assurance. You are going to give a negative assurance. Okay. Whether assumptions provide a reasonable basis or not. Sir, but how to draft it? Drafting I have given on the next page here. Whether based on the examination of the evidence supporting the assumption. See, whether anything has come to your attention that assumptions are not reasonable. I will not say that they are reasonable. All right. Anything has come to the attention which makes you feel that assumptions are not reasonable. All right. I'm not going to say that assumptions are reasonable. I'm going to say that if I want to say assumptions are reasonable, तो ऐसे लिखूंगा, nothing has come to our attention which makes us believe that assumptions are not reasonable. All right. Okay. So one thing, negative assurance on assumptions. When the whole जो पूरा data बनाया होगा उन्होंने, the prospective financial information, on that you are going to give a positive assurance. All right. And what is the English going to be? Whether the prospective financial information is properly prepared on the basis of assumptions and presented in accordance with the financial reporting framework. All right. So there you are going to give a positive assurance. वो Domino's का पता है, you see that photo in that cheese, the cheese comes out, the cheese burst and stuff. But there is one line also at the end which says that actual product may vary. So that is called as caveats. Caveats means warning. We also need to give such warning. We need to give adequate warning. All right. That boss, the actual results may vary, that this report is not an assurance that the actual results will be achieved. Let me tell you, this you will have to put अगर आप ये नहीं लिखते हो, if you don't write this, then this particular standard is straight away connected with professional ethics, which I have given over here. If you do not put the caveats, then in that case you will be held guilty under clause 3 part 1 second schedule, because as a practicing CA, under clause 3 part 1 second schedule clearly says that you cannot write the report for forecast or projection in such a manner which makes people believe that the forecast will be achieved. All right. So that is why till May 19 attempt, this SAE 3400 was one of their favorite SAE. All right, and which I'm expecting that will continue from May 24 attempt onwards. Okay, so please go through this. Now listen to me. If the prospective financial information, if you feel that the presentation and disclosure is not adequate, that the presentation disclosure seems to be little inadequate, then in that case you can give either qualified or adverse opinion. And देखो ऐसे इसका logic use नहीं कर सकते, because in essays we used to withdraw from the engagement only when we felt that the data is not there or there's a limitation on scope of audit and stuff. Over here they are saying that if the presentation and disclosure of prospective financial information is not adequate, then you may express a qualified or adverse opinion or even decide to withdraw from the engagement. Oh my god. Okay. Then over here, if the assumptions do not provide reasonable basis, if the assumptions itself are misleading, then straight away adverse opinion. Remember this, full application based, or withdraw from the engagement. Okay. If you are unable to perform necessary procedures, whatever procedures I have given over here, if you are unable to perform the procedures, then straight away they are saying disclaimer of an opinion or withdraw from the engagement. All right. So please be careful and follow my notes. Do not use too much of your brains. All right. Yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. Okay. So that is it for SAE 3400. If you go through the test or understanding question number 1, it is a good question for SAE 3400. Now for SAE 3402, I am assuming that you have revised SA 402 once. All right, at least you know SA 402 little bit. Okay, only then you can understand SAE 3402. Okay, so but even if you have not done SA 402, Still, at least try to finish this particular thing. What to do now? I have to give all types of solutions. So I've printed the notes which will ensure that you have enough knowledge. Now listen to me. If X Limited is outsourcing some of its functions to Y Limited, yani Y Limited ये वाली activities you will perform on behalf of X Limited. Inventory management, payroll processing, promotional work and stuff. Let us say CAA is the auditor of financial statements of X Limited. Okay. And Y Limited has appointed Mr. B. Mr. B specifically कौन से काम के लिए है? He will provide assurance on controls over such services. See, please understand that CAA will be worried whether Y Limited is providing these services in a proper manner to X Limited or not, especially for these services because it can impact the financial statements of X Limited. अगर Y Limited ये services सही से नहीं देता तो financial statements of X Limited पे impact आ सकता है. And that is why CAA would want some kind of report from Y Limited. That Y Limited please give us some report, alright, that boss these controls are functioning effectively. And that is why Y Limited may appoint Mr. B, may or may not be a CA Mr. B. He will provide an assurance on controls over such services. Alright. Let us say that X Limited has asked Y Limited to manage inventory at 75 locations. But let us say Y Limited has presence only at 50 locations. Then Y Limited may further outsource inventory management at 25 locations to Z Limited. Alright. कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पूरा वाई लिमिटेड के पास ही है, जस्ट दैट कॉन्ट्रैक्टर गिव्स द सब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ना, वैसे वाई लिमिटेड इज गिविंग अ सब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट टू जेड लिमिटेड फॉर 25 लोकेशंस. सो आई हैव क्रिएटेड माय स्टोरी. नाउ लिसन टू मी, यू शुड नो ऑल द नेम्स प्रॉपर्ली. X Limited is using the services, that is why X Limited will be called as user entity. Okay. CAA is the auditor of financial statements of X Limited, that is why he will be called as user auditor. Y Limited is providing services to X Limited, so Y Limited will be called as service organization, and these shortcuts I've used in my notes also. Mr. B is the service auditor because he has been appointed by Y Limited, but let me tell you, he is not the stat auditor. He is here to give assurance on controls over such services, so he will be called as service auditor. And Z Limited, just like subcontractor, he will be called as sub-service organization. So I'm going to use these acronyms over here when I'm writing my notes. All right. Now the biggest trap is, till November 23 I was not worried about this, but now I'm worried in the new syllabus. Let us say they set the same case study. Okay. But in the last line, they ask you to think from the angle of CAA. कि user auditor क्या करेगा? What will user auditor do? Then it is SA 402, and in that there are 3-4 questions which are possible. For that you will have to see my SA 402 video only. All right. But if the last line says that Mr. B, all right, you have to write from the angle of Mr. B. All right. Then it is SAE 3402, and that is exactly what we are doing right now. Okay. So come on, आपको character क्या play करना है? As if you are the auditor appointed by service organization to provide assurance on controls for the services which the service organization is providing to the user entity, and only in this situation you will find SAE 3402. अगर Y Limited ने अलग से एक internal auditor appoint किया है just to provide an assurance on all the controls of Y Limited, then that is not SAE 3402. Am I clear with this? Only this character, this whole story is SAE 3402 where you are going to play the role of Mr. B. Now I'm clear. Now we'll go fast. So आपको ना, you need to understand practically what is going to happen over here. Then I can go fast. This service organization, this Y Limited, it will prepare a document because English पकड़ना पड़ेगा इसका. It will prepare a document. Y Limited will prepare a document where Y Limited will give all the description of the services and all the controls and stuff that it has implemented. So Y Limited अपना पूरा system का for these particular services, Y Limited will give all the description. Then Mr. B will go through that, and Mr. B will be worried about 3 things. Everyone over here, Mr. B, the service auditor, will be worried about 3 things. First, now you will get the English. जो भी Y Limited ने description दिया है system का, whatever description has been given by Y Limited, whether it fairly presents the system of service organization. All right. Then whatever controls service organization has implemented, now I will not use Y Limited. Now please get into the character, the words. Whatever controls the service organization has implemented, whether they are suitably designed or not. Okay. So one is about description, whether it fairly presents the system. Second is about the controls are suitably designed or not. And third, the main thing, that he will perform test of controls and also comment whether these controls are operating effectively or not. ये description of the system का जो comment है and suitably designed, alright, ये दोनों चीज, for both of these things, the report that Mr. B, the service auditor, will prepare, it is called as type 1 report. So one more time, type 1 report DD, type 1 report DD, description of the system which fairly presents the system of service organization, and D, design of the controls. Okay, so type 1 report is very useful to the user auditor when user auditor is performing risk assessment procedure so that he can get an overall understanding. All right, but when service auditor also comments upon the operating effectiveness, अभी वो तो Y limited, if Y limited ने वो scope में दिया है तो comment करेगा. All right, so when service auditor also comments upon operating effectiveness, then for that there is a separate report, type 2 report. So in type 2 report, say DDO, he will include everything: design, description, operating effectiveness, everything. All right, so type 2 report covers DDO. Am I clear with this? Oh, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. Okay, so if you go through this page, तो ये SAE का जो wordings है, those wordings you will get, you know, on the tip of your tongue. Okay, now everyone over here, long list. Everyone, who are you? Who are you? Come on, come on. You are the service auditor. You are the service auditor appointed by the service organization to provide reasonable assurance. Reasonable assurance on the description of the system, whether it fairly presents the system of service organization, on the design of the controls, whether they are suitably designed or not, and the operating effectiveness of the controls. Yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. Come on, come on. ऐसे wordings. Okay. Now, how you are going to perform this engagement? कोई भी audit and examination, there are some certain steps which we always follow. Alright. First, service auditor, comply with ethical requirements. SQC is always there. Alright. Then find out who is management and those charged with governance. Then acceptance of the terms, and if there are changes in the terms, you know, as a service auditor, first of all, you should, when you are accepting it, you should be very clear that yes, you have necessary competence. Then हाँ, ये word बहुत यूज होने वाला है, criteria. Sir, what is criteria? Listen to me. पूरी दुनिया में globally, you know, there are lots of guidelines on how to implement internal control, which are the best internal controls, which is called as internal control framework, जो आपका chapter 4 risk assessment and internal control में last page of the module में है. All right. So when service auditor is checking something, okay, these controls, whether this control is operating effectively or not, how he will decide कि हाँ भाई ये this control is effective? For that he will use some criteria, benchmark standard. हाँ, that is called as criteria. Okay, so criteria applied is suitable or not, then your scope should not be limited. Okay, so these things you have to be careful when you are accepting the engagement. So please ensure that this particular answer, which could be of 3-4 marks, you are aware about this point. Okay, then as a service auditor, what you are going to do, whatever is the criteria that, you know, service organization is going to use. All right, just like globally there are so many international internal control frameworks, and service organization says that we have applied the COCO framework or COBIT framework. All right, these are global frameworks. Then in that case, whether that criteria is suitable, okay, in the preparation, in description, he will also perform test of controls. All right, so criteria, 1 point on criteria. Okay, then he has to apply his brain, determine materiality, which controls are material, which controls are immaterial. Okay, in this area, if the control is not functioning properly, then it is okay. Aisa, he has to determine materiality. Then अरे standards जैसा ही है, just that you have to talk about service organization system. ये देखो ना, ethical requirements, management TCWG, terms of engagement. Then over here, instead of AFRF, because वहाँ पे financial statements we audit, so here they are using the word criteria. All right. Then determining materiality, then understanding the whole system, but which system? Service organization system. Okay. And then वो tell me, at least you can remember these 3 points easily. Service auditor करने क्या है? DDO, description, design, and operating effectiveness. So obtaining evidence regarding description, regarding design of controls, regarding operating effectiveness. Description, whether it is fairly presented, design of controls, whether it is suitably designed, and operating effectiveness by performing test of controls. Yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. And then if there is an internal auditor of Y limited, then he will try to understand, Mr. B will try to understand what that internal auditor is doing, whether he can get some evidence from that internal auditor or not. All right. Then Mr. B, the service auditor, will also require written representation. So I'm expecting that this could be a question. And in written representation, you have to just bind the management. Hey, you have provided me adequate description of the system. You have provided, you have implemented suitable controls. Hey, management, you have given me all the relevant information. सामने वाले को बाइंड करना होता है इन रिटर्न रिप्रेजेंटेशन. सो वॉट एवर आर द मेन पॉइंट्स, ऑलराइट, फॉर दैट यू विल टेक रिटर्न रिप्रेजेंटेशन. ओके. Then if there are subsequent events, then up to the date of signing the report, he will consider those subsequent events. But frankly speaking, I'm not expecting a question as a performing the engagement, all right, because the it is flow is like standards only. I'm expecting कि शायद ये वाला question हो सकता है, all right, or this can be a question. Okay, so relax on that part. Now the reporting part. Hello, who are you? Don't forget, you are the service auditor. You are going to give a report. Type 1 report will be on the description of the system, whether it fairly presents the service organization system and is design, whether it is controls are suitably designed. In type 2 report, you will also include about operating effectiveness of the controls after performing test of controls. Yes sir. Okay. Then what will be the form and content of the report? The format of the report. Format में क्या title होता है, introduction होता है. Alright, so I have just written it over here so that you don't have to go to the module and see it. Okay, but ये देखो, this will be like introductory paragraph. There are some words which I'll just explain. In the report, you will include service organization system, which system you have audited, which system you have not audited. Alright, as per your scope, whether there was any limitation on your scope, all of that you will explain. Sir, what is this complementary user entity controls? This I have explained in SA 402, but I am again explaining. Complementary user entity controls matlab controls implemented by user entity. Tell me everyone, if X Limited has outsourced payroll processing to Y Limited, so employee data, raw data of employees will come from X Limited. Na? Only if X Limited provides proper data to Y Limited, then Y Limited will be able to process further. ठीक है. तो X Limited जो data provide करता है, on that data the controls are supposed to be implemented by X Limited and not Y Limited. So Y Limited says that we are giving the whole service, but there is something complementary that you are also supposed to do. That is called as complementary user entity controls. Because there is one MCQ. Complementary user entity controls will be tested by CAA and not Mr. B, by the user auditor and not the service auditor. That is why I went in detail for this particular point. All right. Okay. All right. Stay here. So ये सब उसको identify करके देना है. And then response, normal report, yeah, responsibility of service organization, responsibility of service auditor. All right, then one reference to this standard. So it's very easy. Okay, just glance once. Now listen, when you will give modified opinion, if the description does not give a fair presentation of the system, if the controls are not suitably designed, or if the controls are not operating effectively, then you will give a modified opinion. Yes sir. And if you have not obtained evidence, then you will give a modified opinion. Don't forget, you are playing the character of a service auditor. All right, तो ये तो अभी language अपने आप आना चाहिए. Yes. Okay. However, I am expecting this as a proper question. All right, if they really want to ask a good, tough question. When service auditor is giving a type 2 report, and type 2 report में तो he is going to cover design, description, operating effectiveness of the controls. Then after this whole report is over, he has to attach an annexure, एक attachment attach करना है या तो एक additional paragraph लिखना है, and in that he has to include a separate paragraph or an attachment, and in that service auditor will have to explain कि उसने test of controls कैसे किया, that how he has performed test of controls. He has to explain which controls were tested, whether it was 100% or just a sample, and how nature of test of controls. So he has to explain that, and not only that, he has to also give a results of test of controls. And in the results, अगर कुछ कंट्रोल्स ऐसे थे which were not operating effectively, जो कंट्रोल्स जब operating effectively नहीं होते हैं, when the controls are not operating effectively, that is called as deviation in audit English. So he has to give a list of deviations. Now listen to me, big trap. If service auditor feels that there are some minor deviations, immaterial, still he has to give the list. Yes sir. All right, so I'm expecting that particular paragraph, right, which can be a really good application based question. Yes sir. So just go through these notes and that is done. Just solve that tester understanding 2 question and the tester knowledge questions, nothing more than that. And if you're my students, then if you just finish our question bank, then it is great. Okay, now the last standard in SAE series, that is SAE 3420. All right, you have to understand the introduction properly. If you understand the introduction, then it is a matter of just 5-6 minutes. All right. Okay. First, let us understand the title. assurance engagements to report on a compilation of pro forma financial information included in a prospectus. Pro forma, कौन सा मा है ये pro forma? All right. Now listen to me. आपको कभी कभी ऐसा फील हुआ है, हैव यू फेल्ट दिस, दैट आज जो हुआ अगर वो पहले होता तो. टुडे आई एम सीइंग, इफ यू आर न्यू टू माय यूट्यूब चैनल, अरे टुडे आई सॉ प्रज्ञेश सर, टुडे आई केम टू नो अबाउट प्रज्ञेश सर. अगर 6 months पहले पता होता तो वाओ, आई वुड हैव क्लियर्ड द सब्जेक्ट, वाओ, आई वुड हैव स्कोर्ड एन एग्जामिनेशन, राइट? हाँ बस, दैट इज प्रो फॉर्मा. वेट एवरीवन ओवर हियर, लिटिल बिट ऑफ मार्केटिंग, सॉरी. सो दैट इज प्रो फॉर्मा, दैट व्हाटएवर हैज हैपेंड टुडे, what if ये 6 महीने पहले हुआ था, 6 months back, what if this had happened 6 months back or 12 months back, right? And to demonstrate कि अगर ये पहले हुआ होता ना, if this would have happened earlier, then this would have been the position. All right, that is called as pro forma. Okay, so everyone over here, pro forma financial information refers to financial information shown together with the adjustments to illustrate the impact, to show the impact of an event or transaction on the financial statements, as if the event had occurred or the transaction had been undertaken at an earlier date selected for the purpose of illustration. This is just an illustration. By this I am not trying to give a guarantee that अगर 6 महीने पहले हुआ होता तो अभी भी होगा. All right, that if this would have happened 6 months back, then it is going to happen in the next 6 months also. No, I'm not showing that. I am just giving you a demo, an illustration. All right, that what if this event had occurred 6 months back. Normally in a practical life we see this in amalgamation, merger, acquisition. So let us say if Reliance is acquiring a particular entity today, then it will just create a pro forma that if they would have acquired this 12 months back, then what would have been their impact on the last 12 months earning. All right, which is not a guarantee that this will happen in the next 12 months also. I'm just showing you the past, how the past would have looked differently. All right, and that is why one US pro forma example I got, United States of America में company का, so that I have printed over here, that link I've given over here. If you want to just click the link and go through that pro forma, no need to do it if you're not in any research mood. Okay, but main English words. So I am Reliance, I am acquiring a particular company today, and I want to show that what if I had acquired this in the last financial year, what would have been the impact. Okay, so there is the last financial year 23-24. All right, that is my unadjusted financial information. Then an event has occurred on 30th September 24. I want to show that what if this event had occurred on 30th September 23. This is my pro forma adjustment. I'm going to apply this pro forma adjustment, and then I will show a 23-24 pro forma. All right, considering this 30th September 23 event, if it would have occurred on 30th September 23. All right, समझा? Yes sir. So these words are going to be used now. Okay, but listen to me. SEBI circular, there is something called as SEBI, like US has SEC, we also have SEBI. So there are guidelines, there are lots of guidelines by SEBI, there are guidance notes by ACI on how to apply this pro forma and when to apply this pro forma, how to create a pro forma financial statements. And वो जो guidelines होता है ना on how to create pro forma financial statements, that those guidelines का उन्होंने यहाँ पे word use किया criteria. So I want you to remember 1, 2, 3 and 4 words. One is unadjusted financial information. On that you are going to apply pro forma adjustment. As what is pro forma adjustment? To illustrate the impact of an event or transaction on unadjusted financial information, considering that event or transaction had occurred at an earlier date. All right, okay, so that is pro forma adjustment. And then pro forma financial information, so 3 words. And fourth, this whole pro forma financial information will be prepared based upon some criteria. All right, then that particular criteria. Okay, so what will be the objective of the practitioner? Again, they are using the word practitioner. Kabhi auditor karte koi practitioner, but that's okay. Even if you use auditor over here, it's fine. To obtain reasonable assurance, positive assurance, not negative assurance, whether pro forma financial information has been materially compiled as per applicable criteria. One more time, whether pro forma financial information has been compiled as per applicable criteria. And I've just given the list of criteria over here, nothing else. To report in accordance with practitioner's findings. Now you have all the words on the tip of your tongue. Abhi dekho फटाफट जाता है ये. Okay, engagement acceptance. Before accepting the engagement, when you are going to accept this kind of engagement of pro forma financial information, all right, practitioner shall consider the following. Common sense, no code word. First of all, hey practitioner, do you have the competence and capabilities to do this? All right. दिमाग है क्या? पता है क्या क्या होता है इसमें? Okay. Then what is the criteria? Or from where you're going to take, just think like a Mossy. From where you're going to take unadjusted financial information. All right. What are your pro forma adjustments? All right. Just get an understanding of that. And then take an agreement. Hey, you will show everything to me. No? I mean the data. So competence, capabilities, criteria, unadjusted financial information source, and obtain agreement from the management. Obtain agreement from management regarding what? That you will adequately disclose everything, you will prepare pro forma which is not misleading, and you will give relevant information to the practitioner. Alright. What else do you want? Idli vada or what? Okay. So these points you will consider before acceptance of the engagement. Am I clear with this? Yes or no, sir? Yes, sir. Okay. Planning and performing the engagement. Come on, man. I've written over here, so use your common sense. अभी चार ही तो चीज है. Unadjusted financial information. What is the source? Are you extracting unadjusted financial information, that raw financial statements properly? Are your 23-24 financial statements were audited, na? Alright. So we are going to check these things. Pro forma adjustments. Is it appropriate? Hey, it should not be misleading. Huh? For this, I am going to obtain sufficient and appropriate evidence. Alright. Then whatever is the criteria, SEBI guideline, guidance notes, is the criteria suitable? See, if it is given by SEBI, then it is suitable. However, if they are developing their own criteria, international standards, all the countries may not have developed the criteria. Alright, then in that case, if they are developing their own criteria, then whether it is appropriately applied, suitable, alright, we are going to check that. Okay. A pro forma financial information at the end, जो product बनेगा, that will be pro forma financial information, whether it is properly presented and adequately disclosed. Logical, Ray. What? You don't want code word for everything. Yes, sir. I want a written representation. Written representation में क्या होता है? We bind the management. Alright. The management, you give it to me in writing that all appropriate pro forma adjustments have been shown and have been, adjusted properly. And then whatever pro forma financial information you have prepared, it is as per applicable criteria. Give it to me in writing. Give it to me in writing. In written representation, you have to just be like a possessive boyfriend or girlfriend, man. That's it. Okay. Now listen to me. There is a little bit of adjustment over here. Acha, in pro forma financial information, that qualified adverse disclaimer, all the logics are same, not a problem. Alright. If there is a misstatement, material but not pervasive, qualified, material and pervasive, adverse. And if you have not obtained evidence on the overall pro forma and stuff, then disclaimer. All of that is fine. So let us say that you want to give a modified opinion, qualified opinion, let us say. But again, international standards, so they are considering two possibilities. They are saying that, boss, let us say that kal utke, tomorrow, let us say SEBI comes out with a circular. Says company cannot publish prospectus or offer document if there is a modified opinion on pro forma. My God. So SEBI has restricted that if there is a modified opinion, then company cannot publish the prospectus. So management is not ready to make the changes. You are telling management, please rectify the situation. You cannot publish the prospectus, right, with a modified opinion. So if law prohibits publication of prospectus containing modified opinion, then I will discuss the matter with responsible party and management. If they do not make necessary changes, then I am withdrawing, or I'll have to take some legal advice what to do in this situation. Alright, because that means they are not ready to make changes and they are publishing it where law is prohibited. Alright. If law does not prohibit, then you give your report and modified opinion and everything. Right? Then there is no problem. That is one little adjustment which I think they can ask in an MCQ based question. Alright. Emphasis of matter paragraph to highlight pro forma adjustments can be used in the same manner as per SA 706. And there is just one small request that you can go to the module page number 11.28, or you can refer my book, for my now students, and just go through the report format once, nothing else. Just once, just one glance. Otherwise, by now, कि SRE ऐसे वगैरह में ये होता title, introduction, and responsible parties, management responsibility, auditor's responsibility, opinion, and all of that is going to remain the same. Am I clear with this? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, after this video, immediately if you solve the questions, test your understanding, all three of them, the case scenario and module questions, that is more than enough. Just relax. Your SAE series is done. All the very best. I will end the video because agar duration zyada dikh gaya to log dekhte nahi hai. But I've covered all the points. All right. All the best.